Welcome, dear listener, to JadeFox Tales, where ancient myths become the dreams into which you softly descend. I'm most grateful for your company this evening and for the quiet moment you have chosen to spend here. Tonight, we journey to the quiet village in old Korea, where, beneath the hush of evening, an elderly traveler encounters a curious goblin whose playful nature conceals an unexpected lesson. It is a tale of kindness, of contentment, and of the quiet fortunes that sometimes arrive when the heart remains humble and generous. For in these old stories, the greatest treasures are seldom those of gold or silver, but those found in wisdom, gratitude, and simple goodness shown to others. You need not follow each word too closely. Should your thoughts begin to wander, you may let them do so, and if sleep should find you before the tale has reached its end, you may welcome it without concern. The story will continue, whether heard or not, as the quiet village settles peacefully beneath the evening sky. Before we begin, let us allow the day to fall gently away. Take a slow breath in and let it go again unhurried. There is no need to guide the breath, only to notice its quiet rhythm. The world beyond this moment may wait. For now, there is nowhere you must be, and nothing that requires your attention. And so, in this quiet interval, we turn gently toward tonight's tale, the story of an old man and of the curious goblin whose visit would change an ordinary evening into an unforgettable one. And now, dear listener, let the body rest, let the mind grow still, and allow yourself to drift as the story begins. In a secluded valley nestled among the soft rolling hills of South Korea, there stood a modest cottage, weathered by time yet warm with quiet life. Within dwelt an old man, known among the villagers for his gentle disposition and humble ways. He lived alone, his days marked by simple labors, tending a small garden, gathering firewood, and walking the winding paths that led to the whispering woods. Though his possessions were few, his heart was content, for he found comfort in the stillness of nature and the rhythm of passing seasons. Each evening, when the sun sank low behind the hills and the sky deepened into shades of violet and indigo, the old man would light a small lantern and sit upon the wooden step before his door. There he would listen to the chirping of the crickets, the rustling of leaves, and the distant murmur of the wind. On one such evening, when the moon hung unusually bright and full, casting silver light across the valley, the old man ventured a little farther than usual along the forest path. The air was cool and fragrant, and a gentle mist clung to the ground, curling softly around the roots of ancient trees. As he walked, leaning lightly upon his staff, he began to hear a curious sound, a faint rhythmic tapping, as though wood struck lightly against stone. It was unlike anything he had heard before, and yet it carried no menace, only a strange and playful cadence. Pausing, the old man listened carefully. The sound grew clear, followed by what seemed almost like a quiet chuckle carried upon the breeze. "Who wanders here at such an hour?" the old man murmured, his voice calm but curious. No sooner had the words left his lips than the mist ahead of him stirred, parting ever so slightly. From within it emerged a figure unlike any he had seen before. It was small, yet stout of form, with a broad, mischievous face and eyes that gleamed like polished amber. On its head sat a curious hat, and in its hand it carried a short wooden club, which it tapped lightly against the ground. The creature regarded the old man with keen interest, tilting its head as though studying him. Then, quite suddenly, it let out a soft, playful laugh. "Ah," it said, its voice both strange and oddly cheerful. "A human who walks without fear beneath the moon." The old man startled, did not step back. Instead, he inclined his head politely as though greeting a guest rather than a stranger. "And who might you be," he asked gently, "that lingers in the forest when others sleep?" The creature grinned, revealing a set of teeth that gleamed in the moonlight. "I," it declared with a hint of pride, "am a goblin of these woods, a wanderer, a watcher, and, on occasion, a bringer of mischief." The old man considered this calmly, his expression unchanged. "A goblin," he repeated softly, "then you must know these woods better than any man." The goblin's eyes sparkled with delight at this reply. It seemed amused, not by fear or defiance, but by the old man's quiet acceptance. "Indeed I do," it said, tapping its club once more upon the ground. "Yet it is rare to find one such as you, who greets the unknown not with terror, but with courtesy." The old man smiled faintly, the lines of each age softening upon his face. "In a world as wide and wondrous as this," he said, "there is much that we do not understand. It would be unwise to greet every mystery with fear." For a moment, the forest grew still. Even the wind seemed to pause, as though listening to the exchange between man and goblin. Then, with a sudden burst of laughter, the goblin clapped its hands together. "Well said," it exclaimed. "Perhaps you are not as dull as most humans I have encountered." The old man chuckled softly, unoffended. "Then perhaps," he replied, "you might walk with me a while and share the stories of these woods." The goblin regarded him thoughtfully, its mischievous grin returning. "Yes," it said at last, "I believe I shall, for the night is long, and I sense that our meeting is no mere chance." And so, beneath the watchful glow of the moon, the old man and the goblin began to walk together along the quiet forest path. Two unlikely companions, bound by curiosity, kindness, and the promise of a tale yet to unfold. The moon climbed higher in the heavens, casting its pale and steady glow on the winding forest path. The old man and the goblin walked side by side, their footsteps soft upon the earth, as though mindful not to disturb the quiet spirit of the night. For a time, neither spoke. The forest itself seemed to welcome their presence, its ancient trees standing as silent witnesses, their branches swaying gentle in the cool breeze. At length, the goblin broke the silence with a low chuckle. "You are a peculiar man," it said, tapping its wooden club lightly against the stone. "Most who glimpse me would flee in terror, yet you walk beside me as though I were an old friend." The old man smiled faintly, his gaze steady upon the path ahead. "Fear often arises from what we do not understand," he replied, "but I have lived long enough to know that not all that is strange is to be feared." The goblin tilted its head, amused by this answer. "Very well," it said. "If you do not fear me, then perhaps you will indulge me in a small diversion." With a swift motion, the goblin struck its club against the ground. At once the air shimmered, and before the old man there appeared a small table laden with food, steaming rice, fragrant stews, and sweet cakes glistening with honey. The aroma was rich and inviting, filling the cool night air. "Tell me," the goblin said, watching closely, "what would you do should such a feast appear before you without effort?" The old man regarded the table quietly. He did not reach forward, nor did he show surprise. Instead, he folded his hands calmly. "It is a fine sight," he said, "yet food gained without labor is often fleeting. I would give thanks for it, but I would not rely upon it." The goblin's grin widened. With another tap of its club, the table vanished as swiftly as it had appeared, leaving only the quiet forest behind. "Interesting," the goblin murmured. "You are not easily tempted." They walked on deeper into the woods, where the trees grew taller and the shadows more pronounced. The goblin's eyes gleamed as it prepared another of its games. Again, the club struck the ground. This time, a small pouch appeared at the old man's feet, its fabric rich and embroidered. As the old man began to examine it, he found it filled with gold coins, their surface gleaming even in the dim light. "Surely," said the goblin, its voice playful yet probing, "a man of modest means could make good use of such a gift. The old man lifted the pouch, weighing it gently in his hand. For a moment he considered it, and then, with a quiet sigh, he set it back upon the ground. Gold may ease one's burdens, he said, but it may also invite troubles. I have enough to sustain myself, and I would not wish for more than I need. The goblin watched him intently, its expression shifting from amusement to something closer to curiosity. Few would refuse such a thing, it said softly. Few are content, the old man replied. At this, the goblin laughed, a softer sound than before, touched with a hint of respect. The pouch vanished, dissolving into the night air. For a time they walked without further tricks. The forest grew quieter still, as though listening to the unspoken thoughts that now lingered between them. You intrigue me, the goblin said at last. Humans are often driven by desire, by hunger, by greed, by fear, yet you seem guided by something else entirely. The old man paused, resting his hand lightly upon his staff. I have known want, he said gently. I have known hardship, but I have also learned that peace does not come from what one possesses, but from what one understands. The goblin fell silent, its amber's eyes reflecting the moonlight. As they continued along the path, the air seemed to soften. The forest no longer felt merely like a place of shadows and mystery, but one of quiet companionship. The goblin, once lively with mischief, now walked more slowly, its steps measured, its gaze thoughtful. It no longer taps its club with playful insistence, but held it loosely at its side. At length it spoke again, its voice quieter than before. Perhaps, it said, there is more to humans than I have believed. The old man smiled, though he did not reply. Some truth, he knew, were best left to settle gently in the heart, like leaves upon still water. The moon began its slow descent, and a faint hint of dawn lingered at the edge of the sky. The path before them stretched onward, winding through the trees, its destination unknown yet inviting. The goblin glanced at the old man, a faint grin returned goblin's lips. Our work is not yet done, it said. There remains one final test, one that shall reveal the true nature of your heart. The old man inclined his head, untroubled. Then let us continue, he said simply. And so, beneath the fading moon and the first whispers of dawn, the old man and the goblin walked on toward the trial not of illusion or temptation, but of something far more profound. The forest had grown hush, as though even the smallest creature paused in anticipation of what was yet to unfold. A pale light lingered at the horizon, the first quiet promise of dawn, though the moon still held its gentle dominion over the night. The old man and the goblin came at last to a clearing, wide and still, encircled by ancient trees whose gnarled roots rose from the earth like the passage of time itself. In the center stood a single stone, once smoothed by years beyond counting. Here the goblin stopped. This, said the goblin, its voice now calm and measured, is where we shall see the truth of your heart. The old man inclined his head, neither anxious nor eager, but quietly attentive. The goblin raised its club and brought it down gently upon the stone. At once the air shimmered, and before them appeared a figure, a frail old woman, bent with age, her clothing threadbare, her hands trembling as she leaned upon a stick. She looked weary, as though she had walked a great distance, and her voice, when she spoke, was soft and uncertain. "Kind sir," she said, addressing the old man, "I have travelled long and have little strength left. Might you spare me a morsel of food or a moment of your time?" The old man stepped forward without hesitation. From the small bundle at his side, he withdrew what little he carried, a piece of bread, simple and coarse, yet all that remained of his provisions. He offered it to her with both hands. "It is not much," he said gently, "but it is given with sincerity. Please take it." The old woman accepted the bread, her hands trembling as she did so. "And will you not keep some for yourself?" she asked. The old man smiled faintly. "I have walked many paths," he replied. "Hunger is a passing thing. Kindness, however, may endure far longer. At these words, the clearing grew still once more. The old woman slowly straightened. Her frailty seemed to fade like mist under the morning sun. For a brief moment, her form shimmered, and then she vanished entirely, leaving only the quiet air behind. The goblin stood motionless. Its usual grin was gone, replaced by an expression of deep contemplation. The playful gleam in its eyes had softened, and for the first time since their meeting, it seemed uncertain. "You knew," the goblin said quietly, "that this was no ordinary traveler." The old man shook his head. "I knew only that she was in need," he answered. "Whether spirit or human matters little in such a moment." The goblin lowered its gaze, its grip upon the wooden club loosening. "You have passed every trial," the goblin said at last, its voice no longer filled with mischief, but with something gentler, something akin to respect. "It is a rare thing," it continued, "to find a heart untroubled by greed, unshaken by illusion, and unguarded in the face of the unknown." The old man said nothing, for he felt no pride in his words. To him, his actions had been simple, natural, and without a thought of reward. The goblin lifted its club once more, but this time there was no trick, no illusion. Instead, a soft glow emanated from its surface, warm and steady, like the light of a distant lantern. "Long have I wandered these woods," the goblin said, testing those who pass, delighting in their folly and laughing at their desires. "Yet tonight I have found something I had nearly forgotten, that kindness may exist without expectation, and that humility may dwell even in the poorest of men." The first true light of dawn began to spread across the clearing, brushing the treetops with pale gold. The shadows retreated, and the world seemed to awaken with a gentle breath. The goblin looked toward the rising light, then back to the old man. "Our paths must soon part," it said softly. "But know this, you have left an impression on me that shall not easily fade." The old man inclined his head, his expression serene. "Then I am grateful for our meeting," he replied, "for I, too, have learned something this night, that even those who delight in mischief may carry wisdom within them. At this, the goblin let out a quiet laugh, though it was softer than before, touched with warmth rather than jest. They stood together for a moment longer, the silence between them no longer strange, but companionable. The forest, bathed now in the early light, seemed less mysterious, yet no less beautiful. The goblin stepped back, its form already beginning to blur at the edges, as though it belonged more to the realm of shadows than of day. Go now, it said, return to your home and carry your quiet wisdom with you. The world, though vast, is shaped by such small and gentle acts. The old man nodded, turning slowly toward the path that would lead him back to his cottage. Behind him, the goblin watched for a moment longer. Then, with a final thoughtful glance, it faded into the lingering mist, leaving no trace but the memory of its presence. The morning unfolded with a gentle grace, as though the world itself had been softened by the events of the night. A pale golden light spread across the valley, touching the rooftops of humble cottages and glimmering faintly upon the dew that rested upon each blade of grass. The old man made his way home along the familiar forest path, his steps unhurried, his heart at ease. Though the night's encounter had been strange and wondrous, he carried no sense of astonishment, only a quiet contentment, as though he had shared a simple walk with an unexpected companion. But at last he reached his small dwelling. The old man paused at the threshold. The cottage stood just as he had left it, weathered, modest, and still. A thin curl of smoke rose from the chimney, stirred by the morning breeze. He stepped inside and set aside his walking staff, glancing about the room with gentle familiarity. Nothing appeared changed, and yet there lingered a subtle feeling, an almost imperceptible warmth, as though the quiet kindness of the night had left its mark upon the very air. The old man went about his morning as he always did, drawing water, tending to his small garden, and preparing a simple meal. Yet, as he worked, he noticed something curious. The earth, once firm and somewhat dry, seemed richer beneath his hands. The plants stood a little taller, their leaves fuller, their color more vibrant. Even the smallest shoots, which he had feared might not survive the coming season, now reached upward with quiet strength. Days passed, and the change became more apparent. The old man's modest garden flourished beyond expectation. Crops grew in abundance, and the fruit trees bore more than they had in many years. Word of this quiet prosperity spread among the villagers, and many came in to see for themselves. They marveled at the old man's good fortune, though he spoke little of it, offering only a gentle smile and a simple explanation. The earth gives as it will, and I am grateful for what it provides. Yet, in the stillness of the evening, as he sat once more upon his wooden step, the old man would sometimes feel a presence, not seen nor heard, but quietly known, a faint, as though a wooden club struck lightly against stone somewhere beyond sight. And at such moments, the old man would incline his head ever so slightly, a silent acknowledgement of the unseen companion who had once walked beside him beneath the moon. Though the goblin did not appear again in form, its nature had not remained untouched. In the depths of the forest, where shadows lingered and mist wove between the ancient trees, the goblin wandered still, but no longer with the same careless mischief. Its laughter, though not gone, had softened. Its tricks, once sharp and thoughtless, grew fewer, replaced instead by quiet acts unseen. Travelers who passed through the woods would sometimes find their burdens eased, a lost item returned, a path revealed where none had seemed to lie, or a sudden feeling of comfort where fear had once taken hold. None knew the cause of these small mercies, yet they spoke of the forest as a place not merely of mystery, but of quiet protection. And though no one saw the goblin, it remembered the old man and the lesson that kindness need not seek reward, nor wisdom demand recognition. Seasons turned as they always do. Spring gave way to summer, summer to autumn, and autumn to the stillness of winter. Through each passing cycle, the old man lived as he always had, simply, gently, and with quiet gratitude for the world around him. His garden continued to thrive, his home remained warm, and his heart knew a peace that neither wealth nor comfort alone could bring. The villagers often spoke of him, not as one of great fortune and as one of great spirit, a man who asked little, gave freely, and found contentment in the smallest of things. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned once more to the shades of violets and gold, the old man sat upon his step, just as he had done on countless nights before. The air was calm, the world quiet, and the first stars began to appear, faint yet steady. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing in the cool evening air, and felt a deep and gentle stillness settle within him. Then, carried faintly upon the breeze, came a sound, soft, familiar, and almost playful. The old man opened his eyes and smiled, though he did not turn to lick. Instead, he spoke quietly into the fading light. May your path be a kind one, wherever it may lead. The sound ceased, and the night grew still once more. And so the story of the old man and the goblin came to rest, not as a tale of great adventure nor of grand triumph, but as one of quiet understanding, for it is often in the simplest of moments, in a shared walk, a gentle word, or a small act of kindness, that the truest lessons are found. And though the forest remained as it always had, filled with shadow and light, mystery and silence, there lingered within it a subtle change, a softness born of a single night's meeting between a humble man and a wandering goblin.